You asked us 21 questions. Some of them are about the Chiefs. What's up, everybody? Kent Swanson. This is 21 questions. Subscribers asking questions, us answering them. Thank you for listening, and thank you to all of our subscribers over at KC Sports Network for supporting us, for asking wonderful questions. If you want to, you can go to kcsn.substack.com. You can sign up there. You could also, if you would like, you could go to gum.co/KCSN22. You could purchase the or pre-order the KCSN draft guide and get 6 months subscription to the Substack as well. So there's a couple options for you to jump in on the fun. And I'm excited to be jumping in on the fun today with celebrity game participant, soccer superstar, indoor soccer professional, Tucker Franklin. Buddy, this is a big week for you.
It is a big week. We even had to bump up the recording a little behind the curtain. We had to bump up the recording of this here podcast because I'm gonna be busy on Friday night. Friday night at 7 p.m. is when the Comets kick off against the Dallas Sidekicks at Cable Dom Arena. You can get tickets for that at Ticketmaster. But at halftime, the real show begins because that's when the celebrity game kicks off. I am on the blue team with Team Serrano. Jordan Foote, also a good friend of mine and a good friend of ours as well, is going to be on my team. Got all the 8-10 guys on the team. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. I didn't know I got to fall into the celebrity category, so it feels kind of good. It's a good little ego boost, right, when it comes to when you get an invite to a celebrity game. All I do is chug seltzers on TikTok, and they said, this guy's a celebrity. So I guess it worked.
Tucker, we need you to do a TikTok. We need you to do one from, like, honestly, just carry your phone and just, like, it doesn't even have to be a quality, like, just like a bird's eye view of what you're seeing. Just play the game through the phone. It'll be great. There's no way that ends badly for you.
No, and especially if I get, like, I've like already convinced myself I'm scoring at least one goal. Like I haven't played soccer since 4th grade, and I'm like, I'm scoring a goal. Like I'm shooting for the net every time I touch the ball. And I guess every opportunity I don't take is a wasted opportunity, and I'm not here to waste an opportunity. So I'm gonna milk this for as much content as we get. Hey, the Comets Twitter account even said they bought 96 seltzers for the VIP suite that we're in. So kind of stoked about that.
Oh my. You're gonna be giving a lot of ratings.
Let's hope I haven't tried them before. That's the stipulation.
That is the stipulation. All right, let's jump into some of the questions. We actually got a form submission from I believe the website. So shout out to David Borland for asking this question. Then we'll get to the questions on the Discord. Normally, where we answer the questions is on the KCSN Discord. You get access to the KCSN Discord when you subscribe. So it's a really fun community and fun environment. That's where a lot of the questions are. But David Borland emailed in and said he has an idea for changing offensive or overtime rules, and the NFL will soon look at several proposals to change OT rules to be more fair. I think one reason they like sudden death and don't like the college rule is that they want the extra overtime period to be as short as possible. This increases excitement and reduces the risk of injury for players. What about a rule that encourages coaches to avoid overtime? Most coaches will elect to tie the game with an extra point rather than go for 2. They avoid putting all the risk on one play, and they think the percentages are with them or at least even. So add this rule. The team that scored last in regulation is first on defense first in overtime. So they are on defense first in overtime. That might shift the calculations and avoid overtime as much as possible. What do you think? Would it work? And would you like it? What do you think, Tucker?
That's a really interesting rule, and I think that there's more of a chess match that comes into it, right? When you add something like that, that's really interesting. And one of the things when it comes to overtime rules, I think a lot of the rules are there for player safety. I know that's kind of what the defense was behind the sudden death is, okay, these guys just played 4 quarters. We're not going to make them play another half of football. And I think that's kind of like the big argument for any other sports, really, when it comes to overtime. When the NCAA shortened their overtime to 3 overtimes and tried 2-point conversions, it was a player safety issue. So I think that's something that really comes down the larger discussion behind these overtime rules is a player safety thing. When these guys are playing for so long at such a high level, you got to watch out for that. But I do enjoy the strategy in that rule. I think that's what I like the most about that.
Yeah. I think I think it would change the calculus a little bit. I don't know if it would move the needle drastically because I still think some coaches would coach scared and still just prefer
Yeah.
to take it to overtime still. So like I still think you would see a lot of teams that would still be willing to play it safe in that situation. But there might be a little few more instances where teams are a little bit more willing to try to be aggressive. Maybe that's I don't know if this actually benefits the Chiefs. Like I think this would really hurt the Chiefs potentially because I think the Chiefs are one of those teams that tend to be a little bit more aggressive. And they'd rather not leave it up to a 50-50 chance very often. So if it's 100% chance you're starting without the football,
Hmm.
there's some situations that certainly helps. I don't know if it does across the board though. All right, Nick Deal asks from the Discord, the majority of national mock drafts I've seen have Dax Hill mocked to Kansas City at 30. That's the best case. Matthew is moving on. How would Hill's style of play help cover the void left by Tyrann Mathieu? And is Hill the best draft option, or would that be Jalen Petrie, Jaquan Brisker? I think Daxton Hill is the best fit of all those guys you listed, and I think Daxton Hill has a really nice skill set that would fit in wonderfully in Kansas City. Good as a slot defender, willing tackler, can play in a deep alignment. He's a versatile guy, and I think there is some crossover and some carryover to what Tyrann Mathieu does. I do think he's the best fit of all the guys that you listed. You know what? Depending on how this whole offseason shakes out, don't know if I hate it. I don't know if I hate that idea. Derek asks, is there such a thing as a hot hand when it comes to the draft? The Chiefs had arguably the best draft last year, and I'm hoping that the front office runs it back with this draft.
I hope there is. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with there. I hope there is such thing as a hot hand. That was Brett Veach's best draft. I don't even know if that's really up for discussion. I think the rookie class, there's something that the Chiefs tweeted out an article wise saying that like they're the highest rated rookie class last year. They hit some home runs with Creed Humphrey. Trey Smith was an absolute banger of a pick in the 6th round. That dude had round 2 talent all over him. It was just his medicals, and the Chiefs were able to clear that. They got a good guy right there. Nick Bolton comes in, he contributes right away. You love to see that from a 2nd round guy who's able to make an impact. And I think that really overall, I mean, we didn't talk a whole lot about Cornell Powell, but I don't think a lot of people anticipated Cornell Powell coming to be a real game changer. I think I'm excited to see what he has to do in this offense. But if you can hit on over half of your draft picks, that's a good draft. And really, that's kind of what we're hoping for in the Chiefs drafts, really from here on in the Patrick Mahomes era, is that they really get hit on these young guys.
It's tricky. The Chiefs nailed this draft. And this statement is not in any way, shape, or form to take away what the Chiefs did because they nailed the picks that they made. However, I think there are some positions that are trickier to get the kind of impact from a positional value perspective. So, the Chiefs aren't going to just be able to draft a linebacker, two interior offensive linemen every year. They can't hit, on those 2 players any more than they already have because they're probably not making investments at those positions. So, it's harder to hit on wide receiver. It's harder to hit on corner. It's harder to hit on some of these positions, especially since, from an impact perspective, those positions from a positional value perspective, they haven't hit on necessarily those guys. So it's, you hope that they're going to be able to continue to land some dudes here. And they did an outstanding job this last draft. But I mean, I think, some of the positions that they might be hunting this year are a little trickier. And it's going to be interesting to watch. Just DRK asks, what ways can this team generate more explosive plays? I think it's tricky because there's only so much this team is going to be able to do. If teams are going to be, sitting in soft coverage and really trying to keep a lid on this thing, I think there's only so much you can do with run throughs. I think the Chiefs really tried to get Tyreek Hill underneath a lot more, just put the ball in his hands and hope something good happens. And that's not really a way to consistently generate a ton of explosives on the short to intermediate. I do think just DRK kind of mentioned some jump ball kind of type throws. You could probably see a little bit of that, some rail shots. If they're going to sit and cover 2, you throw down the sideline. And maybe you get a bigger body guy that can kind of win in those areas a little bit more to try to help generate more explosive plays. But I think this team just needs to be more efficient because teams are playing them differently and they are forcing them to drive down the field. They got to run the ball better. I mean, you might just have to live with 9-yard gains, 8-yard gains, a bunch of them, and just deal with the fact that you're not going to get to, stretch the defense the same way that you were hoping to. You got anything else to add to that, Tuck?
I just think adding another weapon would be really useful, especially a receiving weapon. I think that can kind of open up a whole lot. When you talk about Sammy Watkins, going back to those teams, having him just on the field, just another presence that defenses have to say, yeah, we should probably put a guy over here. And they don't have to, just sit on either Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill. I think that'll just open things up huge. But I think that's kind of, feeding a fed horse at this point.
Feeding a fed horse, he says. Look at this man. All right. Booth, headset, and sideline for the offensive and defensive coaching staff, Tucker. just do offense. Booth, headset, sideline. Go.
Okay, I think you got to put Andy Reid on the sideline. I assume he's put in here, especially offense. I like to consider him. Booth, I think you got to put Nagy in the booth and me on the sideline. I think that's kind of how you do it. Yeah, that's a good game. I like that.
That was fun. Kay Gumminger asks a question. Our guy, which draft prospect would be better in 2012 than modern 2022 draft? I love this question. This is an interesting one. So there's a couple backs I think that probably fit that. That maybe they're like let me think. There's a couple backs, honestly.
The Clint guy from Northern Illinois. I can't pronounce his last name. It's like Rakovich or something like that. Wow. Yes, that dude. I love that dude. I love that dude though.
Yeah, I was gonna go with like a Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. I think he'd probably go in the top 5 picks because he's such a good runner. He is the best runner in this class, the running back out of Michigan State. He's a guy that, the passing skill is not necessarily like, it's not really his best trait, but as a runner, as a pure runner, he's outstanding. And he's probably one of he is the best runner, probably pure runner in this class. So there's a guy, there's a lot of nose tackles this year. A lot of big body nose tackles. I think we talked a little bit about like Noah Ellis earlier this week, just these massive monsters that just sit in the middle of a defense. And if you're playing base and you just sit out there and just, you just occupy a gap, there's a couple guys there. But I think that there's some runners in the running back class for sure. All right, just DRK. Are the Chiefs going to draft Marcus Jones just because of Dave Taub? That's a good one. Did you do the video on? Did you do the Marcus Jones video, or was that BJ?
No, BJ did that one. BJ is big fan of Marcus Jones.
He loves Marcus Jones. He absolutely loves Marcus Jones. And if you guys don't know, he's a Houston cornerback. I believe he won. I think it was the Paul Hornung Award is the name of the award.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
As the most versatile player in college football because he returned kicks. He was a defensive player. He played on offense a little bit. Like he did absolutely everything for this football team. It wasn't the Paul Hornung award winner. We're gonna live look this up.
Live look up.
Let's see here. Marcus Jones. Oh, it was the Paul Hornung. I was right. Sorry. I was right. My bad. Yeah, he won it. It was I thought I was right, but I double checked it. Yeah, so he's it's like the most versatile player in football, in college football. So
it's incredible. Go on the highlights.
Yeah, I shudder to think that they take him just because of Dave Toe, but let's hope not.
Listen, anything.
Hey, Fish asks every single time the Chiefs add a wide receiver, or we talk about a young Chiefs wide receiver, it's mentioned that the Chiefs offense is notoriously hard to learn for receivers. Is it maybe too complicated if it's such a big issue that it gets mentioned this much? What do you think, Tuck?
That's interesting to talk about. It's like one of the things, like, do you blame the player or do you blame the player or blame the game? Kind of type of chicken or the egg type situation. I don't think so because we've seen receivers thrive in it. Tyreek Hill is one of those. I mean, Sammy Watkins, they all got big paydays. Who's the receiver that Patrick Mahomes gave a good payday to?
Albert Wilson.
Albert Wilson. I mean, come on. Guys have gotten big paydays out of this offense. So I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing that it's hard to get. I would actually argue that it's a good thing that it's kind of hard to get. It kind of is like a natural selection type of situation.
Yeah, it's a tough learning curve, but I think the Chiefs ultimately figure some things out towards the end on how to utilize some of these guys. Like that's like McCole Hardman's skill set's very very specific, but they found some ways to use him early in the year because he was stretching down the field and the teams really didn't do a great job of taking it away. And they've kind of settled into some gadget stuff that's been able to get him integrated and got him integrated pretty quickly. Old KR asked, if the Chiefs run fewer RPOs, what would you like to see added to replace those snaps? Well, I'd like to see a more diversified run scheme. We've talked about the gap stuff, and I think the Chiefs need to run a little bit of that more and more, just designed runs out of that. And yeah, obviously you got to get some drop back, you got to get some quick game because the Chiefs, a lot of the Chiefs quick game, is built with that RPO, with those glance routes, those slant routes, hitches. A lot of their quick game is just attached to a run play. So if you're going to get, you're going to take away some RPOs, you're probably going to integrate a little bit more quick game. You're going to integrate a little bit more run. And maybe they diversify the blocking and add some layers there. I don't think that's a bad idea. Grayson Jaspers asks, would you rather the Chiefs re-sign Kyle Long or Mike Remmers? Ooh. What do you think, Tuck?
Listen, I'm a Mike Remmers stan. I'm a big fan of Mike Remmers and the versatility that he has. Listen, I know he had a hard time playing. Did he go to left tackle in the Super Bowl? I know we don't like to talk about that, but the dude played pretty solid right tackle pretty much all year when he wasn't, it wasn't expecting to really play. He played pretty good. He played good when he was in this season. I like Mike Remmers, and I think I don't know the age. I don't know their ages off the top of my head. I know Mike Remmers isn't young by any stretch of the means, but I think he's younger than Kyle Long. But I could be wrong with that. I know that Kyle Long's just have a lot of injuries, so maybe in my head I think Kyle Long's older.
I think they're right around the same age. If that Kyle Long's 33, Mike Remmers is 32.
Okay, so it's the injury history that I don't really love with Kyle Long. Did he get on the field this year for the Chiefs? I don't know. No. Did he take a snap that have any relevance? Okay. So I like Remmers. I do. I always have, and I think that I might be biased in that. But I just think he's just the versatility and just better overall.
All right, Grayson Jaspers also asks, who got the most draft picks right last year? Okay, so what we do every year is we do a draft pool of 10 players. The draft show that we've done the last few years, we each get 10 players that we think will just be drafted by the Chiefs, just period. And we pick 40 of them. And there's different strategies. Maddie will go really heavy at one specific position and hope to just land one. There's a lot of different strategies you can take. You can maybe guess the ranges that you see the Chiefs, the pockets, you could load up on tight ends and stuff you could load up on, on a pocket of, there's just all these different varying strategies that kind of, show up whenever we do this thing. And I think Maddie, Jake, and I have all won one each. I'm pretty sure I got 2 right 2 years ago. I think I got Clyde and maybe Niang right last, 2 years ago. But I'm pretty sure Jake won it this year. So it's a fun game, and it's normally a podcast. You'll probably hear that podcast at some point here during the draft process. Let me see if I can find the draft pool real quick, just see if I can tell you. I'll look it up, and I'll tell you exactly who we got right last year. But it's a really, really fun game that we like to play. Okay, just DRK. What would you put the percentage chance at that this front office will try to add a defensive end who isn't a power player? What do you think?
Percentage chance. That they won't. This is a tricky worded. A percentage chance that they won't do something, right?
That they will just try to add a defensive end that's not just one of their power players, Spags kind of prototypes.
That's not going to happen. It's going to be a Spags type. I'm fully convinced that it's not, that they're going to have a Spags type in there 100% of the time. That's just how it is. That's just how it be. When you have a process, you got to stick to it.
Yeah, I tend to think that that's probably the same. Yeah, it's hard for them to deviate, and if you're seeing a
Mhm.
deviation, that's something to kind of pay attention to. Like Mike Dana really didn't exactly fit the thresholds, and but that was a late day three investment. This team
Yeah.
is very typically going to operate with long guys that are I think 6'3" or long, or bigger, 255 pounds or heavier. Way like they're big, dense, powerful type players, long arms, 34-inch arms. I mean, this is their MO, and this is the type of guy that they've added. So, I think I feel like they're going to be sticking with that. Zach Eisen asks, I'm listening to Jeff Allen's Q&A right now, which you should listen to. It's on the KCSN channel. He's talking about Nagy and EB. He says stuff like Nagy is going to help Patrick get better. Unbelievable coach. And Nagy will help the passing game. Versus when he talks about EB, he says something about the lines of leader of men, good with guys. I think it is something we as fans and outsiders have assumed, but to hear it from someone inside the building just confirms it. What exactly does EB bring to the table besides being in an administrative role? Doesn't sound like it's schematic. And maybe the answer is he's just an administrative offensive coordinator. Um, you know, it's hard to kind of pin down the entire workings of that offense, but like we've kind of talked, like I don't know if administrator is the right word, but there is something to be said about creating continuity and accountability throughout and a side of a football. And I think Eric Bieniemy is a guy that's been able to help, really do a lot to help organize that offense. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's this. He may not be the best X's and O's guy, but being able to be consistent, create consistency, structure to a week, to a game plan, holding guys accountable, having guys ready. Those kind of things matter. And then on the field, like I think you hear about, sometimes some guys need to get checked. There's only there's got to be a level of trust that's built for someone to be able to check somebody. There's got to be, a good dynamic, a good relationship for you guys to be able to have some healthy, some healthy, debate, healthy, kind of, tension, and I think Eric Bieniemy is a guy that has earned the respect of a lot of different people and has given himself the ability to communicate and be direct because they know where it's coming out of. It's coming out of a place of love. Nagy, I think he gets lauded a little bit more for his offensive creativity, and I think there's probably some credence. There's just because everything in Chicago didn't work. I think there was some issues and some blind spots there for sure, but they definitely still did some stuff creatively. And there's just different personalities. Jeff would be a guy that would know a lot better than all of us for sure, though. Grayson asks, do you feel safe saying the Chiefs will roster 4 tight ends again this year? What do you think, Tuck?
I don't know if I would feel safe in saying that, but I guess you have to think maybe they do bring Blake Bell back just because he's the tight end that they like as tight end 2. Noah Gray is going to be on that roster. That's 3, but Jody Fortson had a good showing early on. I'd like to see him be on this roster, so I guess there's a possibility. But they could not bring Blake Bell back, right? And Jody Fortson then turns into that number 2 tight end, which doesn't really fit the number 2 tight end mold that they really like. It'd be interesting to see how that all shakes out. I do think Jody Fortson's on this roster. I think the big question I think is Blake Bell and whether he comes in and re-signs, because I believe he was only on a 1-year deal if I'm right.
Yeah, he was on a 1-year deal. And so that's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Nick Deal asks, a Tyreek Hill contract extension has been talked about as a way for KC to create some cap for this season. What do you project a Tyreek extension to look like money wise? I don't know if I don't know if he would get the DeAndre Hopkins deal. I mean, it's gonna be tricky, but man, you might have to. You might have to give him that $27 million
Yeah.
APY, $28 million APY. You're probably extending him for 3 years after this, is my guess. So you've got 4-year deal here. Um, I think guaranteed money wise, it's going to be interesting because this team with the last couple contracts hasn't really guaranteed money as much as they've given themselves. They haven't put a lot of cash up front with these deals, with the Chris Jones and the Mahomes deals. I don't know if that would be the same for Tyreek Hill. I kind of have a feeling he might want a little bit more in guaranteed money on this kind of deal. That's just pure speculation. But I do think he probably wants a little bit more cash. Um, So I'll say it's probably, we'll call it $27.5 million APY deal on a 3-year deal, 3-year extension. I would anticipate maybe a little more guarantees than they gave Mahomes and Chris Jones. I don't want to spec maybe $40 million, somewhere in that range is my guess. Wes asks, what's your protocol if you encounter intelligent life not from this world? This is just you out on your own and you run into something or they run into you.
I have not given any thought to that before in my life until the question was just asked. That is incredible. And I asked for no hard questions in the Discord, and why are people giving me hard questions? That's not fair. I think that I honestly don't know what I would do. It'd be one of those situations, you know how like you have those dreams and like where you go to talk but you can't talk. It might be one of those situations where I'm just like, what is going on? But I'm not able to
Frozen?
talk.
I think I'd freeze. I think I'd freeze up. Like I honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think you like. Okay, if you see something you've never seen in your entire life, it's making noises, it's silent, whatever's happening, you don't like you're helpless. If you really run into one of those scenarios, you're helpless. I just don't know. I fight or flight. I'm not fighting it. I'm just
Flighting it.
Maybe, but like maybe I'm just tensing up. I have no idea. Leighton Y, any chance the Chiefs trade for Barkley with the rumors going on? I doubt it. I just doubt it. I mean, that's a tricky one. I would be a little bit surprised. I get, Brett Veach loves to grab blue chip players, but there's so many issues on this roster that like if they were going to go and, spend capital and the cap space required to have Saquon Barkley, I don't know, man. I don't love that idea. He's a good football player, but he's also been like frequently hurt and
Very frequently.
I don't know. What do you think, Buck?
Well, at first I thought Charles Barkley, and I thought that was weird. That was a weird question. I forgot Saquon's last name was Barkley. I don't like it. I'm in the camp though of like it doesn't matter who your running back is as long as you have a good offensive line. So like if Darrell Williams can be a better running back than Saquon Barkley can be, and why do you need a Saquon Barkley? Yeah, Saquon Barkley's a freak of nature. You've seen that dude's quads? Like the dude's insane. That dude's a large human being. But I don't think there's any reason or any rationale to spend that kind of money when you're getting the same production from somebody who's cheaper, right?
Yeah,
that's my thought process.
$7 million cap hit and draft cap and draft capital. I don't like it. All right, Andy Nagel, can Josh Gordon be more impactful next season? Was he just out of football and needs time to get back? Man, I don't know. I think he's cooked. I don't think this is going to be something where he's able to really step in and contribute. I think it's done. And I mean, it's been a really difficult road for him, and him coming back is just impressive enough, but I just don't see it. Wes asks, what's the best form of potato? French fried, tater tots, mashed, baked, etc. What is it? What do you think, Tuck?
It's mashed. I think it's mashed potatoes, but if you think about it, every potato is a mashed potato when you eat it.
What? Stop.
It is though. Like I mean, you can't even argue with that.
The answer is French fries, by the way.
Tots, maybe?
Mike Denny asks, what will the next deal, not the franchise tag, that you think the Chiefs official Twitter will announce? I think it's Frank Clark's release.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say.
Is that what you're thinking? Do you have any other ones you like?
Not
like, that's a weird statement to make. It may not be something we love, but
that was honestly the next one that I think is going to come. Maybe I don't know because Tyrann Mathieu's a free agent, so it's odd. So they can't like tweet like a farewell, I don't know if there's any other cutting candidates besides Hitchens and Clark that we've literally talked about all season that I can even think about that would come next or come before even an Orlando Brown tag. I think that honestly comes first, but.
All right. Side Armor 35. Do you think the coaching staff minus Bieniemy is now locked in for the next 3 years? I don't see Nagy or Spags getting jobs anywhere anytime soon. It seems like the offensive coaching tree path Andy had going for a while has come to a screeching halt. No, I think there'll be some shakeup over the next 3 years. I think there will be some moves and some adjustments made. And I think I think there's one more year on the contract of some of these coaches. So, they let Sam Madison out of his contract a little bit early. Brendan Daly's moving positions, but he's only going to be here for another year before you have another contract decision to make. So I do think there will be some shakeups. I mean, you saw some shakeups already. Joe Colin's here in the mix. And that wasn't necessarily a move that the Chiefs had a spot for him right off the bat. So I do think that there are going to be some moves on the coaching staff and maybe some more drastic ones. Let's see here. Grayson, set the line for how many times Maddie has one last thing when Kit is trying to wrap up the show and the other choose the over and under. Okay, so all right, so next episode, let's see here. He does it like honestly, if you did it once a month, or if you had a month worth of shows, we'll do a month worth of shows. Set the over. I'm gonna set the over under at 2.5. Tucker, you're probably getting 7 shows, 2.5 interruptions of the outro of the close.
Oh, I'm hammering the over. I was thinking 4.5 is the line. So, and I was prepared to take the over on 4.5. He does it a lot. Like it's frequent, especially the Wednesday show. The Wednesday, or I guess Wednesday recording, but the Thursday show, it happens almost every week.
I think he's been a little bit better about it recently. Like the bit's not as fun for him. Maybe, I don't know, but like it does feel like he's he's like at least slowed it down a little bit. But can I just tell you, it drives me nuts. Like it legit drives me nuts. I'm trying to get out of the show. I'm just like, bro, like let's just have a clean break. Let's just get out of here nice and easy. Like what's wrong with that? He's Maddie's the youngest one of us. He's the biggest, strongest one of us, but like he definitely acts like the little brother a lot of times.
Listen, this is something I've learned about Maddie is he knows what buttons to push too.
Oh my!
He knows it, and he'll do it all the time. And that's what's so good about the interrupting is he knows it annoys you. That's why he keeps doing it.
He's very it's good at it, but it's not to a point where you're legit mad or anything. It's just right. I'm telling you, but like I feel like he's got a good he's got a good instinct about when he can and can't do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did it this week if I remember right. All right. BA Cyclone. If Frank Clark is cut, it looks like we are projecting to have roughly $24 million in cap space for the offseason. How would you guys choose to spend that money this year, assuming no other moves are to get more cap? Well, I mean, if there's no other moves, that means it means the Mahomes hasn't been restructured. That means Chris Jones hasn't been restructured. I think you got to take care of Orlando Brown. Like I think Brett Veach has made that clear that that's their first and foremost priority, and I think that's the right move. If you only got $24 million in cap space, though, you have to sign Orlando Brown to an extension because you have to have the cap space to accommodate the salary cap hit for the franchise tag. So that actually expedites the process for the Chiefs as far as their getting an Orlando Brown deal done. So you actually have to get one done so you can maintain a low cap hit for this year to give you a little bit more flexibility to make some other moves. But I don't think, so that's priority one. And you're really hoping you hit in the draft because there's really not a ton of cap space outside of that. You're maybe doing some smaller moves like a Melvin Ingram, probably bringing guys like Byron Pringle back if you only have that much cap space. But I think there's small moves like that. Maddie or Tucker, did you have anything else?
No, I don't really think so. I think it's one of those things where there's going to be a lot of cap manipulation this year with restructuring, and 24 million isn't like a whole lot, but cap's going up, and I think that the restructures are going to be the biggest part of this. I think I tweeted something out at the beginning of the offseason. The Chiefs could have close to $100 million if they restructure everything possible, which like they won't restructure everything possible, but it's just something fun to think about.
They can get a pretty penny there still. Tucker, you asked for no hard questions, and Zach Minerax came in underneath you and asked, what is the best way you can describe a substance going from a liquid to a solid form?
Liquid to solid. That's not evaporation. That would be solid to that's solid to gas.
Explain.
Listen,
I'm waiting.
Yeah, that's a great question. I meant to Google it before we hopped on this podcast because I knew that question was coming, and I forgot to Google it. Do
This
you
is
have the
better.
answer?
Dude, you're like
Do you have
6
the
years
answer?
removed from taking science classes. Like, come on.
Dude, I skated through I think I took chemistry in college. Barely showed up to that class. I got a D in chemistry. I just got out of there. That's all I did was just get out of those gen ed classes so I could do the fun stuff, like the Photoshop and stuff. That's what I strive for. It's like I know there's a word for it, and it's just so frustrating. Is it?
I'm
I feel like
enjoying
I know
watching
it.
you squirm right now so much.
It's just like I'm gonna sneaky Google it, but we're on camera, so it's not like I can
No,
sneakily
no.
Google.
This is weak. That's a weak answer. It's okay. You know what? We're gonna leave it at that. And if you want to try to come up with a thoughtful answer, find him on Twitter or find him on TikTok at Pikachu Mixtape. All right, just DRK is Russell Gage an option for this team? Seems like an upgrade over Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson, but definitely has a ceiling as a low end 2, solid 3. Is that worth the investment? Saying likely a $5 million type contract. Yeah, I mean Russell Gage is kind of an interesting guy. He's a little bit on the small side, so he's kind of a thinner guy, and so I don't know if he's really a direct replacement for a guy like Byron Pringle, a guy like a guy like Demarcus Robinson. He's more of a guy that can operate in the slot a little bit, somewhat as a Z, and those are areas that the Chiefs have some guys and some redundancy to those skill sets. So I don't know if he's necessarily the right kind of fit for this football team. Casey from Casey asks, which of these combine tight ends impressed you the most? So, Tucker, have you had a chance to watch any of these tight ends? There's a couple.
No.
There's a couple that impressed me. Have you had a chance to watch any of the tight ends yet from the combine?
Sadly, I have not been able to, but I know that there's some dudes in this tight end class.
Yes, it is a lot of guys. There's 2 off the top. Greg Dulcich out of UCLA. The athletic profile is a little bit above average, which is good for him. But I think he's a guy that could really ascend. He's bordering, and I think Maddie. I don't know if Maddie's asked this publicly or not, but he's asked the question why he's not tight end one. And honestly, I get it. I mean, I think his skill set as a pass catcher is really, really nice. It's versatile, a little bit more advanced. And I think he tested fine. But the guy that's blowing the combine up, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for this guy, Jelani Woods, the University of Virginia tight end, started his career at Oklahoma State. Massive, massive human. He's having a fantastic pre-draft process. He helped himself immensely out at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Just did a great job. And then, getting to kind of stack this, athletic testing performance, 6'7", 260 pounds is ridiculous. And getting to hear his story, I think, it's why he does what he does. He's got one brother with special needs. He's got another brother whose career was cut short. What a cool guy. What a cool guy. I'm certainly rooting for him, and he's had a fantastic process. He really has. All right. Well, that is going to do it for 21 questions. Thank you so much to our subscribers for asking some wonderful questions. We really appreciate you. And check out everything going on at KC Sports Network. We got a lot. And yeah, thank you. We'll catch you later.